Hey everybody, welcome to Medaska on Sinatra. This week's episode, we're going to debate who had more effect on popular culture, Frank Sinatra or the Beatles. This show's relevant because iTunes, less than a week ago, released the Beatles on the iTunes catalog, its availability. More than $2 million worth of downloads. So the Beatles are kind of hot right now, so we figured we'd debate its credence. With me today is my guest, Mr. Tommy Briggs. He will be representing the Beatles. And as always, I will be representing Mr. FS, Frank Sinatra. Okay, I'll start this little debate. I'm going to hit my points as far as why I think he was more effective. First off, he was the first teen idol. Before the Beatles, before Elvis, before anybody, he was the #1 teen idol. Also, he defines comeback. Everybody now likes somebody coming out of rehab. They like somebody who is a success story, a Michael Vick story. They want everybody coming back from like the depths of society. He's the first guy to ever do that, made the initial comeback. All right, he defined cool. Everybody wants to be cool. Everybody wants to do their own thing. All right, who invented it? Frank Sinatra invented it. Even today, everybody wants their own style. They're doing their own thing. Nobody wants to follow rules. Frank's the one who broke all the rules. He defined that. All right, first scandal. You got TMZ now. You got Tiger Woods. You got Brett Favre. Who don't you have on there? Frank is the first guy to ever be followed by the biggest scandal ever. Broke up his marriage. It broke up everything around him. All right, first scandalous guy. Also, was he in the mob? Was he not in the mob? Look at all the gangster rappers now. Look at all these rap guys, all right? They call him the OG. What's that? The original gangster. They all want to be Frank. They're imitating Frank. Even today, they want to be Sinatra. It's unbelievable, all right? Only artist ever to sing about and be a part of the human condition. He was a teen idol when he was a kid. He sang it all the way to the end, all right? At the very end, My Way. When he died, he finished, all right? He was over. The only artist ever to do that. Nobody was around that long, ever. Only him. Dress. He affected the way dress was in the 50s, all right? Guys had to wear their hats tilted. Guys do the same thing today. Everybody wants to be cool as far as fashion. Who's the first guy to do that? Frank Sinatra. He's still affecting it today, all right? Solo. Everybody wants to be a man alone. They want to do their own thing, all right? He's not a group. He's not 50 guys. He's one guy. He stands there on stage alone, by himself, all right? You can't run. You can't hide. He's one person. Everybody wants to be that one guy. Also, feared. All right, everybody wants to be feared, all right? You want women to love you, or you want guys to fear you. Who defined that? Frank Sinatra, all right? And then finally, he defined what a rock star is. What does a rock star want to do? They want to go out, they want to party, they want to get every female, they want to be drinking all night long, sleep all day. Who did that first? Who did that better? Nobody but Mr. Frank Sinatra.
First of all, this is the most preposterous thing I've ever heard in my life. I shouldn't even be here arguing about such a ridiculous subject. The Beatles, one of the first bands to ever revolutionized the rock band concept. They pioneered psychedelic music. There was 4 of them and only 1 of him. And I believe he was an idol for your grandmother. And as you can see, they're more popular today than they were back then, as you can see with the whole situation with iTunes and everything. I even heard an argument one time that Bobby Darin actually was a better singer than Frank Sinatra, and the only reason they picked Frank Sinatra because he was a better performer than Bobby Darin. But this is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life. A band, each member with so much talent that when they went solo, they still continued on with the great hits of yesterday and today, and will continue on. And the Beatles will never die; they'll always be here. As you mentioned in your episode not too long ago, you went to see them in Jersey City, and there were only 50 people showed up. I guarantee you that. If A Hard Day's Night or Help was playing there, it would pack. The people would stand on their heads, on other people's heads, just to see those movies. So I think right then and there, that would tell you that there's something going on. And I think Frank Sinatra old Blue Eyes cannot hold his pants up. And I have nothing more to say. He was nothing more than a two-bit gangster that was backed up with a bunch of incorrigibles.
All right, before I rip Stevie Wonder a new one, all right, music lover Brian 1 just chimed in a few hours ago on the topic. He actually touched both things. He first said about Frank, he was a master in interpreting a song, bringing out all the emotion of a song, which is absolutely true. But he also commented on the Beatles. He said the Beatles, their music was new and cutting edge, and also by the way they wrote their own music, unlike Sinatra, who didn't write their own music. So thanks, Brian, for chiming in as far as like taking both sides, which is cool because it is a real difficult topic. But as far as this retard, I'll tell you right now, what are you talking about? You made like 0 points. You had less points than a retarded kid's pencil. What the hell
let me say, at least 2 of them are still alive.
Yeah, barely. Like Ringo's like mumbling around for Christ's sake. What is he, like 3 foot tall?
Hey, all I can tell you right now is the Beatles will live on forever. And you said to yourself in your last episode, I mean, only 50 people showed up in the movie theater. What does that tell you right there?
That everybody else was in a nursing home, for God's sakes. We're talking about popular culture, and then the gangsters, they were in jail. Where are they going to come and see them? They can't.
What happened to all the supporters? What happened to all the supporters? The Frank Sinatra
What is this, a girdle, for Christ's sake? Don't worry about it. I'm talking about affecting popular culture. Why don't you stick to the topic, all right? I know you can't see with those goddamn glasses on.
You're such a funny man. A very funny man.
That's hysterical, for Christ's sake.
You know, the thing is, what about the argument with Bobby Darin? What about that?
What about Bobby Darin? Bobby Darin was his freaking guy, all right? We're talking about Sinatra versus the Beatles and popular culture. Who do gangsters want to be? Do they want to be Ringo? Man, I'm a rapper, baby.
Yeah, but Frank Sinatra had a helping hand in this, and you know who helped him along the way.
Yeah, of course, so did the Beatles. They had their barber, for Christ's sake, all right? He affected it more than anything. Plus, chicks were horny in the 60s. Why do you think they liked the Beatles? It wasn't the music. I want to hold your hand. Try a little lower, Bob. Try a little lower.
I'm telling you don't know what you're talking about.
I don't know what I'm talking about.
There's something in that drink that I don't know what it is. But,
at least I'm drinking hard alcohol. What do you have, for God's sake? Maple syrup. That's a typical Beatles fan. Walking around there with those bad accents and haircuts. All right? If you're that rich, fix your tooth.
Let me tell you something.
What's wrong with your teeth?
Let me tell you something. At least the Beatles didn't mumble like Frank Sinatra didn't forget his words on stage before he kicked it.
Of course they didn't mumble. They have 3 teeth preventing them from talking. What's going to stop them? Nothing. All right? You're talking a train wreck.
I think you've
Yeah,
lost
you
your
think.
mind.
You
That's
think
what
with
I
nothing because there's 0 up there. Unbelievable.
Sinatra might have had, some the way he phrased things and his style and stuff like that. But let me tell you something. Nothing can beat the Beatles. You watch the Beatles when they're live, some of the live performances they had done, the vocals of John Lennon back then. incredible song.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. I'm rubbing the goosebumps in my pants down, for Christ's sake.
I mean, when people listen to the Beatles, you can every album, you can remember every song on a Beatles album. I don't know, a Frank Sinatra song. I mean, New York, if I hear that one more time, I'm gonna frickin' leave and go to California. I'm sick of that damn song.
Frickin'? What kind of word is that? Jesus Christ.
Okay. I mean, Summer Wind. Okay, that's another one I heard of. God, it's wintertime. I'm tired of hearing that.
Yeah, dude, Summer Wind. Keep your Summer Wind on your own side. It freaking stinks over here.
The Beatles wrote their own music. Did Sinatra write his own music? The Beatles definitely changed the world.
Yeah, how'd they change the world? How?
Well, and just look around you. I mean, they were a pioneer of the psychedelic music. I mean, it's incredible some of the things.
So they invented rehab centers. What else?
You know what? The only thing I have to say is, I believe that Frank Sinatra was backed by the mob, and that's about as far as it goes. If it wasn't for them and the money they were pumping in,
mob.
You know what I'm talking about.
The mob.
You know what I'm talking about.
Did you just say the mob?
Do I mumble? All right, maybe I mumbled that. But let me tell you something.
Really help you about now, kid.
Well, all I can tell you right now, I'm sorry I had to lay the truth down, but that's what the public needs to know. The mob backed Frank Sinatra, and that's all I have to say about that. You know it. I know it. They know it. Let it blow in the summer wind.
Well, thanks for tuning in to Medaska on Sinatra this week, where we debated Frank Sinatra versus the Beatles. I apparently won, as usual. All right, we'd like your comments, we'd like your responses, we'd like you to subscribe. So please do so, send us some stuff, and tune in next week for Medaska on Sinatra. The summer wind came shooting in from across the sea.